Hey everyone, Anne-Marie here from Sifted Savannah Bakery, and today I'm going to show you how to use acrylic discs with press and seal. So let's get started. First, let's talk about the materials that we need. So I have my cake turner here, and then I'm going to put on top of that a non-slip mat. After that, I'm going to use a 10-inch size acrylic disc for a flat surface. The cake that we are going to be icing today is a 6-inch cake, so my 10-inch here is perfect size. It'll give me a nice smooth surface when I go to scrape the cake off. The next thing that I'm going to be using is a thinner non-slip mat. You can see here how thin it is. I like the thinner ones going underneath my acrylic disc, and this size is cut slightly smaller than the acrylic disc that I'm going to use today. Today we're using 6 1/4. I get my acrylic disc from Cake Safe. I really love them. They're very nice. They're very durable. They come in different sizes. They come in 0, 1/4 inch, and 1/2 inch sizes. So depending on how much icing you need or want, or if you're going to be putting it under fondant, then it'll determine what size acrylic disc that you're going to be using. Today we're using 6 1/4. So I will have that. I will place my thin non-slip mat down, and then I'm going to place one of my acrylic discs on top of that. The next thing that I'm going to be using is actually a smaller non-slip, because what people have told me is that when they put their cake or cake board on there, it still slides around. So what I like to do is cut just a small square of my thin non-slip mat, and I'm just going to place it underneath my cake board, so that way when I go to put it on top of my acrylic disc, it doesn't slide anymore, and it's thin enough that it's not going to affect my icing. Now what we're going to do is we are going to prepare the other acrylic disc, or what is the top acrylic disc, and I'm going to use press and seal. You can find press and seal in your local grocery store, or if you cannot find it in your local grocery store, I know they do sell it on Amazon. We're going to take some shortening, whatever brand of shortening that you have with you. Today I'm using Crisco butter flavor, but you can use whatever you have in your closet or pantry. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull out some press and seal, and then we are going to lay it on our counter with the sticky side up. Next, we're going to take our shortening and we are going to lightly cover one side of our acrylic disc, just to the edge. Make sure that you're not going over the edge, because if you do, then your press and seal is not going to stick to your disc. So we're just going to slightly cover it with some shortening all over, just like so, making sure that we are just going to the edge of our disc and not going over. The reason why we are covering our disc with some shortening is to make sure that when we go to remove this top disc from our cake, that the press and seal will be able to come off easily from our disc. Now that our acrylic disc is covered, we're going to put that with our shortening side down. So our press and seal is sticky side up, and then we're going to put the acrylic disc with the shortening side down, just like this. The next thing I'm going to do is trim my press and seal about 2 inches larger than my acrylic disc. Now that I have trimmed my press and seal, what I'm going to do is wrap that tightly around my acrylic disc, making sure that I'm getting it nice and flat but still snug around the disc. Make sure that you're getting it as flat as you can on the top of the disc, so when we go to use our level to level our cake, we don't have a lot of press and seal bunched up, because that will affect our leveling. Alright, now we have our acrylic disc covered. We want to make sure that the sides here are nice and smooth, so when we go to use our bench scraper, it's not bumpy. If you feel any bumpiness, you can smooth that out, just like that. And then we are ready to put this on top of our cake. Alright, so we have our prepared cake turner with our acrylic disc, our non-slip mats, our little non-slip mat that's going to go underneath our cake board to prevent it from sliding. So I'm going to put my 6-inch cake on there and I'm going to center it up, just like this. Make sure it's all nice and center, and then we are going to start icing. Make sure that you put enough icing on top of the cake so when you go to level it and you're pushing it down, that you have enough icing up there to make it level. Now we're ready to put our top acrylic disc on. Make sure that you put the press and seal side down on top of your icing. We don't want to push down too hard just yet, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that both the top and the bottom acrylic disc are centered all the way around the cake. So I'm going to take my bench scraper. This bench scraper is from Ester cakes. I love them. They're nice, good metal scrapers. And please go check her website out. I put the link in the bottom of this video. And I'm just going to push that up against both acrylic discs and make sure that I have a nice, straight, perpendicular line all the way around the cake. Now that I have checked that my acrylic discs are nice and center all around the cake, the next step is to level it. This is why it's really important that when you wrap your press and seal around your acrylic disc that you make sure that it's nice and flat as you can get it on the top, because if you have a bunch of press and seal up there, then it is going to affect your leveling. So make sure that when you wrap it nice and tight around. Once you finish leveling, all we're going to do now is we are just going to fill in our sides here between our two acrylic discs, and then we're going to use our bench scraper to get it nice and smooth. Now it's time to smooth our cakes. So we're going to make sure that our bench scraper is touching both the top and the bottom acrylic disc, and we're just going to scrape off all that extra icing that we have there. I'm going to check once again to make sure the cake is level, and then I'll make my adjustments where I need to. I may do this a little bit differently than other people, but if you'll notice that you'll see there's not enough buttercream right here, and that you see some holes and gaps. So what I like to do is actually put this back in the freezer and chill it, and then I'll come back and put another coat on there. So I'm going to go stick this in the freezer and then re-ice it. This second coat of icing fills in all those holes and gaps so nicely. And there you go. Now we have nice, smooth, straight sides. So we're going to put this in the freezer, and I'm going to let it chill for about 30 minutes, get it nice and firm. And then what we're going to do is we're going to remove our acrylic discs. So this has been in the freezer for about 30 minutes, and what I'm going to do is take a big cake board. This is like a 12-inch size. I'm going to stick this on the top, and then I'm going to flip my cake upside down. Now I'm just going to pop off this bottom acrylic disc. It should just be able to just come right off like that. If it doesn't, you can take a knife and run it underneath there and just pop it off. Now I'm going to take my prepared cake board, and I'm just going to stick a little bit of icing on there, and then we are going to put that on the cake. And I'm going to center that up just like so. Once we've got that all centered, all we're going to do now is we're going to flip the cake back over. If the cake moved just a little bit when you're flipping it, then you can center that back up just like I'm doing right here. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to peel off this press and seal from the top, just like this. It's stuck on there pretty good, so just make sure that you peel it all the way around. A lot of times what I can do is actually pull up like I'm doing right here with the press and seal, and that acrylic disc will just pop right off if I leave it in the freezer long enough. But of course, because I'm doing this tutorial, it's not going to work. So now we're going to have to use a knife. And I'm just going to run it underneath that acrylic disc in between the press and seal and the disc that way, and then we're just going to pop it off. Since this tutorial, what I do now is actually leave my cake in the refrigerator overnight, so the next morning when I go to pull up from the press and seal like I was doing earlier, that disc just comes right off. You'll see here that the top is still a little uneven, so we're going to smooth that out and straighten up those edges and clean those edges up. I'm using a plastic folder right here that I've just cut up to smooth. I find that that's a lot easier to use, especially on structured cakes. So I like using this little plastic folder to help smooth my cakes. And there you go, everyone. This is how you use acrylic discs with press and seal. If you'll look, I have nice smooth sides. I have sharp edges. I just love using this technique. I hope everyone enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you found it useful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. All the links are going to be down at the bottom. Thanks, guys, and I will see you next time.